My life before Christ was pretty out of control. I had my first child at 13 years old. I got pregnant again with my second son, and I was 17 at the time. The situation with my third baby, it was almost like a dare. I was like, okay, well, what do you want me to do to show you that I love you? And he's like, oh, well, you'd have to have my baby.
My son, Stephen, is Brendan's biological father. Stephen and Nancy had been married prior to Brendan being conceived and divorced. Stephen was fighting in the war in Iraq at the time, and he came home, and while he was home, they got together and Brendan was conceived. Stephen was convinced that it couldn't be his. He had to go back to Iraq. Nancy didn't feel she could take care of this child. Her initial thought was that she would have an abortion.
Me and my fiance had become pregnant. When it happened, we were ready for it, I think, but we just needed more information. And my sister had actually been coming here for her whole pregnancy, and she couldn't say enough good things about this place, how comfortable she was and how much she actually learned.
I told him, I was like, hey, I'm pregnant, and he went off on this whole like, oh, that's not my baby, and I already know the situation that I'm in. I've got 2 children. Their fathers aren't around. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna have this kid and go through the same scenario? Any mother that gets to that point, they're confused, they're desperate. I've known all my life that abortion is wrong, but now I'm actually considering that. After it was all done, I just felt like so battered and beat up. How am I supposed to leave this clinic and then go out there and function like a human being? And I couldn't look at my children right. If they would try to hug me or try to get some sort of affection, I'd push them off. You feel so like a hypocrite. Like I hate the way that I feel. It was either go to church or take myself out.
Nancy had received counsel from Susquehanna Valley Pregnancy Services. We said, why don't you go back and talk to the counselors again? And it was after that she approached us about adoption. I was in my 40s. My husband was almost 50. And we both felt we were just too old. Plus, it just seemed like an odd concept. So I did tell her that I would pray about it. And it was through prayer that I really felt that we should proceed with, at least exploring that option for her. And so between that and, the counsel that she was receiving at the center, I truly believe it gave her the courage to follow through with the pregnancy. I've had enough experience walking life out with God that if He's walking alongside you, there really isn't an excuse you can't overcome. And that's what it became was, anything that would have prevented the adoption at that point was just purely excuses.
It was very nice to have a male counselor. It made it easier to actually have like a male point of view. It was very helpful having somebody to talk to that's actually a father that's been through it a few times already, made it that much easier.
I just remember going to the altar and just saying, invisible dude, Jesus, if you can really make my life better, if you can help me get rid of this feeling that I have, I promise I will serve you.
Because of the services provided at Susquehanna Valley, Brendan was given the ability to enter this world. Brendan came to the world with an amazing wisdom that went well beyond his age. And I've seen him minister to people, that were my age. When I see him do those things, I think to myself, how can we make a choice that person, that child, doesn't deserve to be here?
I've learned things I didn't even know that I needed to know to be a father, and how important it is to be involved in your child's life. I learned how to believe in myself as a father. I learned how important faith was. Every time I have a question, somebody here has an answer for it. They don't judge you at all. They want you to be here. I was pretty scared at first, but now I'm excited. I can't wait to be a part of their life and to have as much of an impact on that kid as I can.
Last year in April, I started with surrendering the secret. And little did I know that was the Lord's way of finally getting me to full healing and restoration of my abortion. I'd gotten to the point where I'd forgiven everybody else. The only thing I could hang on to was that. And if I let that go, then it was as if I was letting my baby go. Through surrendering the secret, I was able to release her. I no longer remember the pain of the abortion. The Lord showed me that I was able to mourn my child, and that if I didn't forgive myself, then it was as if him dying on the cross wasn't enough to cover my abortion. And it certainly was.
When I think about Susquehanna Valley Pregnancy Services, I think about the fact that they give people the courage to follow through with the pregnancy so that God's opinion, which is that this child was supposed to be here, gets to be made manifest. They are, one at a time, letting all these little Brendans into the world so that they can live out the plans and purposes that God has intended for their lives. And at the same time, giving courage to those that find themselves in a crisis pregnancy.
I'm just deeply, deeply grateful for everything that I've learned here and for how I was treated and for how accessible this place is, for just the whole experience. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. It's been awesome. Thank you guys.